Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. And for the past few weeks, we have been focusing on some college football 25 stuff, but also Madden 25 is right around the corner. I believe we might be getting a reveal here actually very soon. I think sometime next week. But before we get into that, I've done the video, what are the best Dynasty teams to use? Well, now it's Madden time, kinda, for now. What are the best Madden 25 franchise teams for you to use? So let's get into it right here. Number 7, we have 7 on this list, but there's more than 7 teams. What do you mean by that? Well, number 7, any team with a first-year quarterback. So that's going to be the Bears, the Patriots, the Commanders, the Vikings, the Broncos, and kind of even the Falcons. So, the Bears, Patriots, and Commanders all took sort of your typical blue chip quarterback prospects in the top 3 picks of the 2024 NFL draft. And those players are always fun to use in a franchise setting. You get to kind of take them on the start of their career and maybe see how they turn out in real life, you know, compared to how they do in their franchise and how to do in real life. The Vikings and Broncos took quarterbacks who many people view as kind of those high floor, kind of low ceiling types of players, types of quarterbacks, and J.J. McCarthy and Bo Nix. These guys will likely take a little bit longer to maybe be productive, but the teams around them likely further along than the first 3 that we listed here. So both those quarterbacks kind of in really good positions right away. J.J. McCarthy up there in Minnesota with Justin Jefferson, who just signed that mega deal. Bo Nix in Denver with Sean Payton. There's some weapons there already. So both those guys are set up to maybe have early success, but you probably expect Caleb Williams. You expect Drake May. You expect Jaden Daniels to eventually kind of be one of those guys to probably be eventually a top 3, top 5 quarterback in the NFL. And then you have the Falcons. They already have Kirk Cousins, which is probably what many of you said after the Falcons drafted Michael Penix Jr. I know the age and the human anatomy jokes can be very funny, but Penix, if he can stay healthy in the pros, I think he has a really good chance to be a good NFL quarterback in real life. You could easily use Cousins for the first season of your franchise and then see how that regression probably hits him. Again, we don't know anything yet about Madden 25, so I don't know if they retooled regression or how that works just yet. But usually guys who are going to be age 37, you typically gets a lot of regression. So I would expect him to start regressing very fast. There you go. You already got your quarterback there in Penix. Our potential quarterback, you can see if he works out. If he doesn't, well, you can go and draft again with the Falcons. So these are all teams that none of them are, these could be teams that I think could be wild card teams for sure. Some of them, maybe not the Bears, Patriots, or Commanders, but the Vikings, Broncos, and Falcons, those are teams that could be close to making the playoffs. Still have a lot of holes that need to be filled, but are probably teams that I think are a lot easier to get to the top compared to maybe some of the other teams that I have on this list. So that is number 7, the 6 teams that drafted quarterbacks in the first round of the 2024 NFL Draft. So number 6 on this list, which is technically the 7th team we're listing here, but the number 6 team on this list is going to be the New York Giants. The Giants were a team that was maybe rumored to take one of those 6 quarterbacks in the draft that I just got done talking about. Maybe one of those quarterbacks didn't fall to them that they didn't like, or just whatever. Instead, they decided to stick by their man and Danny Dimes. Daniel Jones played well enough to get the Giants into the playoffs into 2022, earned himself a contract extension. That, was a 4-year extension, but it's really a 2-year extension. No more guaranteed money after this second year here. And he had a pretty bad 2023 season before he ultimately tore his ACL. The Giants, they can get through this season, and if Daniel Jones, or if you, as taking over the Giants, if you feel like, Daniel Jones, I don't think I can get much else out of this guy, and you can either cut him, trade him. It's not going to have too much of an impact on your cap, and you can move on here. The Giants signed a few linemen to keep Jones upright, but this line is going to need a lot more than John Runyon Jr. and Jermaine Illuminor. Giants also have Evan Neal, who they thought would be an elite player, next to a really good left tackle in Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas on the left side, Evan Neal on the right side. You'd think you'd have a pretty good, you get that really set up, you're ready to go. Well, Evan Neal just kind of hasn't worked out too well. Andrew Thomas, very close to almost being considered an elite tackle in this league, I think, at times. Some injury questions. He does play hurt a lot, but still has played very well for the Giants. The Giants like what they see. That's a guy that you're going to want to keep around on your franchise. You get a franchise that has that cornerstone left tackle, you want to keep him. Andrew Thomas is probably a guy who's going to be on your team throughout your franchise if you use the Giants. Then the Giants drafted Malik Nabers. So you at least have that one big-time playmaker. Malik Nabers impressed a lot of people at LSU, like a former Giants wide receiver who was also out of LSU. Nabers, an amazing athlete, great speed, great hops, great hands, good route running, everything you'd love out of a top-tier wide receiver. As your true number one wide receiver. And Nabers, a lot of people thought maybe he was just as good, if not better, than Marvin Harrison Jr. I know that sounds kind of wild, but Nabers is a great talent. So, if you pick the Giants, you get a great talent there, Malik Nabers. No Saquon Barkley, no Xavier McKinney. You do have rookie Tyler Nubin, who will try to replace McKinney. The Giants probably likely think in real life they could probably compete for a wild card spot, and maybe they can, but this team still has a lot of holes to fill on the defense. I think at linebacker, still got to fill some holes at corner, I think. That defense probably still needs to be rebuilt, and you probably don't have a real quarterback here. Depending on what Daniel Jones' ratings are going to be, you're probably going to have not a lot of fun using Daniel Jones. He can kind of use his legs a little bit, but apart from that, it's not going to be a good time with Daniel Jones. And yeah, so number 6, New York Giants. They got a lot of holes to fix, a lot of question marks at quarterback for sure. And it's a guy that you can get out from under, relatively easy in your franchise. So that is number 6 on this list. Now let's get into number 5, and it's a team I've had a franchise on this channel before. Number 5 on this list is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this Pittsburgh Steelers are officially in what many NFL franchises who have a franchise quarterback eventually dread when that quarterback gets old. They are in quarterback purgatory, quarterback hell. They are not in a good place here. The Steelers, they never really had a succession plan for whenever Big Ben called it a career. Some questionable drafting, Najee Harris and Kenny Pickett in the first rounds in back-to-back years. It's kind of lets the team in an odd place. There's probably still enough playmakers on the defense. It's not a great defense, but there's still some playmakers there. They can probably keep you in a game, but you probably don't have a quarterback that can really go out there and win you a game. You have a quarterback that can maybe not lose you the game, but you don't have one that can go out there and make those big-time plays, those big third-down throws over the middle of the field that you need. The Steelers' offense has been awful the past few years. It doesn't matter who the OC is when the man under center can't hack it. Enter in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. These are two quarterbacks who have led some pretty anemic offenses the past few years, and things just don't look much brighter here. In real life, Wilson, he might be able to show he still has it, but in Madden, it might be better to just rock with Fields, see if he can maybe turn it around. Justin Fields did finish Madden 24 with a 76 overall rating. I doubt he opens Madden 25 that high. I'm expecting that rating to be like a 68. Still have a good physical ratings like speed and things like that, and acceleration, but I just doubt he's going to be that usable. I think, there's probably going to be a correction to his rating. His rating was always just a little too high, for my opinion. Low 70s, high 60s. That's probably where Justin Fields is going to be. Russell Wilson, older quarterback. He's going to regress right away. That's not your answer. This is a team that needs a quarterback here. So, again, I think a really interesting team here. Get to rebuild a team in a division that's kind of rife with quarterbacks, at least with 2 of the 3 teams. The Browns, that guy's kind of a creep. He does nasty stuff, and he didn't play all that well when he was there. And then you got Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow in your division. So that's what you're going to have to compete with. So that is number 5, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 4 on this list is going to be the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans finally reached the end of the Ryan Tannehill era in the middle of the 2023 season. and they turned the keys over to quarterback Will Levis, who they drafted in the 2nd round. And he showed he might have the makings of a franchise quarterback, but he still has a long way to go. And the Titans still have a lot of work to do to kind of protect Levis. You saw in those games, he was getting beat up at times. The interior of that line, there's probably some work to be done, but they do potentially have their kind of that anchor on the left side of the line in J.C. Latham. This dude is insane. I have to say, J.C. Latham, go look up some of the videos of what this guy's doing on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. He just looks insane. I mean, this guy just looks like an absolute monster. The Titans, they got a real ball player. You know, I know that's the cliche saying, but he just looks like a beast. I mean, just that's a great piece to get there on the left side for your young quarterback. And then on the other side of the ball, the Titans, they get a little bit of work on the defense too. Jeffrey Simmons, great player. Well, he has a new friend, Devondre Sweat. So a lot of size, a lot of new power on both sides of the ball. Speaking of size and power, the Titans moved on from a man with a lot of size and power, and that was Derrick Henry. Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard will kind of leave that backfield now. That's a definite downgrade, probably in Madden terms, right? You're going to have to look for your next franchise running back as well. That's something you're going to have to look for. You're going to need those new playmakers here around Will Levis. They did sign Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd to help out that receiving room already with DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins, Ridley, and Boyd are all really good players, but they're all either over 30 or just about to turn 30. Again, you have to remember, regression is a thing here. This is a franchise. This isn't play now, right? You're going to be potentially playing 2, 3, 4 seasons with these guys. These guys are going to regress really hard, really fast. That's just the way it goes with skill positions in Madden. These guys are going to regress. You know, I'm not sure how Madden 25 is going to do regression just yet, but maybe they've tuned it up just a little bit more. After seeing that, sometimes guys just didn't regress fast enough. So I'm expecting 20 Madden regression in Madden 25 to kind of hit like a you-know-what. So again, don't expect to have those guys long-term. A lot of the future of this team, I think, rides on whether or not Will Levis can develop into a true franchise quarterback that this franchise really hasn't had since Steve Aaron McNair, RIP to him. So number 3 on this list is going to be the Seattle Seahawks. The Geno Smith Linsanity run is over. And there was times this past season where people kind of thought, you know what, should they maybe be playing Drew Lock instead? Geno Smith had a great comeback story. Here's his comeback story. He was ass, and then he was kind of less ass. And the NFL gave him an award for that for some reason. But the idea that Geno Smith was going to be a long-term fix at quarterback was always kind of shaky to me personally. I just never bought it. He's just kind of just an okay player. You know, again, kind of like almost like Ryan Fitzpatrick vibes I kind of got. It's like, yeah, that's a good quarterback to have for a little bit, but that wouldn't be my long-term answer. And I don't know if this guy's a long-term answer who they traded for. And Sam Howell showed some flashes in Washington, but has a knack to kind of just take a lot of sacks and turn the ball over. Now, you would be controlling him in this franchise, right? So maybe you can make Sam Howell work. But I would probably focus on scouting for my quarterback in the future if I was you, though, which I believe I did when I did this team back in Madden 23. Well, you know, a couple teams I've done franchises on this list. There's some really interesting young defenders on this team, though. You got Reek Woolen, you got Devin Witherspoon, you got Boye Mafe, who, you know, kind of showed up last season with 9 sacks. Byron Murphy was a good addition to that D-line. Safety room will need help. You don't got Jamal Adams. You don't got Quandre Diggs. Did add Julian Love, but you're going to need more than that. Linebacker room also needs some help. They brought in Terrell Dotson and Jerome Baker, but again, these are older guys, one-year players, not long-term solutions. Not a lot of long-term stuff here in Seattle, so you're going to have to build that up here in this franchise if you pick the Seahawks. So one last thing, though. Pretty clear, nobody won that Russell Wilson trade. And now, number 2 on this list, we're going to go to the South here. The NFC South with the New Orleans Saints. Another example of when you have an aging quarterback, your plan should either be have his replacement ready to go before he retires, or be ready to crash out and accept that you need to enter a full tear down and rebuild. The Saints have famously refused to do either of these and have instead entered into quarterback purgatory with guys like Jameis Winston Derek Carr, Taysom Hill. Carr remains with the Saints, but they did select Spencer Rattler in the 5th round of this past draft. If you remember, before Caleb Williams had that big game, it was against Texas, if I could be correct, where Rattler struggled. Caleb Williams came in, led him back, won the game. That was kind of the start of, oh my God, Caleb Williams, QB1. All the way back, I believe his freshman year was like, oh, this dude's going to go 1 when he gets drafted. Eventually did. The other guy, Spencer Rattler, eventually did transfer out, went to South Carolina, was able to show that, hey, baby, that early, if you remember, Spencer Rattler was presumed to be QB1 that year. Him and Sam Howell, it was kind of like him, Howell, QB1, which one of these guys is going to step up and show that they could be the next QB1 coming out of college, and neither one of them did. And Rattler here getting drafted in the 5th, but it's a lot better. A lot of people thought at one point this guy was going to go undrafted. Rattler showed that maybe there was something to that early praise and hype. You have an interesting thing here in New Orleans. I would say if I was doing the New Orleans Saints, I would just bench Derek Carr and I would just start Spencer Rattler that first year. See if maybe we can put up some stats. Maybe we can win Rookie of the Year, get a dev trade upgrade, get those XP gains, those XP points, those skill points, and I would see if I can maybe try to make Spencer Rattler a thing. Saints will also, something you have to focus on with the Saints, you're also going to need to build up that offensive line. They got a big piece on Talis Fuaga in the 1st round, who should probably hold down the left side of that line. But the right side is a little bit concerning. Again, I'm not sure how Madden 25 is going to handle Ryan Ramczyk's injury. Knee injury has not gotten really better from the understanding. Sounds really similar to David Bakhtiari, where structurally maybe it's fine, but there's just constant swelling anytime he tries to ramp up with exercise and things like that. So it's going to be Trevor Penning. Penning, they drafted him as a guard. He wasn't a really good guard. Now going to try him at right tackle. Maybe he'll be good there. Again, I'm not sure what his rank's going to be in Madden. So you might have to, anyway, you might have to draft another tackle. You're going to have to draft some guards. You're going to have to maybe draft a center. You have to fix the offensive line up. Saints also signed Chase Young, trying to get some edge rush. Again, that's a 1-year deal. Trying to get some pass rush with Chase Young. 1-year deal. Probably not going to be a long-term answer for you. Another guy who's kind of disappointed so far in his career in the NFL so far. Saints are a team that's stuck kind of in that middle tier. I don't think they're bad enough to be in position to draft a difference maker at quarterback, but probably not good enough to realistically compete for a championship. The NFC South is a dumpster fire, so you can always compete for the NFC South, but you're not going to compete for a Super Bowl. That's one thing you're not going to do in New Orleans right now with how that roster is currently constructed. So the number 1 team on this list was the team that probably should have picked number 1 in this year's past draft, but didn't because they traded the pick to the Bears in the previous year's draft to draft Bryce Young. That is the Carolina Panthers. I personally still believe in Bryce Young, even though my Panthers franchise series said otherwise. But the Panthers, they set up Bryce Young to fail last year. Simple as that. Didn't have the weapons, didn't have the line. They've made some improvements to the old line. They drafted Xavier Leggett, wide receiver. Drafted running back Jonathan Brooks, pretty talented running back. Drafted a pretty talented tight end in Jatavion Sanders. So you got some weapons there. You signed Deontay Johnson. You signed David Moore. So there's some weapons there. There's some guys who could probably help Bryce Young get open early, help win early, make things easy for him when that blitz comes in. So Bryce has the weapons. More will still be needed, on that offense. Still probably got to find some more long-term players up front at center probably. Still want to rework the interior of that line a little bit more. Still can always get better, but either way, I think the offense is something that they fixed. That's something they clearly focused on. But this defense leaves a lot to be desired. Not a lot of star talent on this defense anymore. Brian Burns in New York, Yetur Gross-Matos out of here as well. So, you're going to need to find the next era of superstars on this defense. You do got Derek Brown. You do got J.C. Horn. Those are the 2 bright spots here. But, you got to get some guys on the edge. You got to upgrade at linebacker for sure if you're taking over this team. So your first year in this franchise will be all about getting those skill points for Bryce Young. This is going to be definitely one of those I think franchise teams where you're going to be in shootouts constantly that first year, right? Where I think there's going to be a lot of games where you might blow teams out, and there's going to be those games where you get blown out. And I think that's kind of what you're going to have here with the Carolina Panthers. But again, the goal should be to get Bryce Young as many good stats as you can get him all the skill points you can get, maybe even get a dev trade upgrade or two to feel confident about him being that long-term answer at quarterback. So number one on this list is the Carolina Panthers. So that is the list. Those are the teams I think are probably the best teams for you to rebuild in Madden 25. We don't know a lot about Madden 25 just yet, but I think this makes a lot of sense. I think all those teams kind of make a lot of sense. I don't think there's any teams on here. I don't think there's anyone on here where it's like, all right, yeah, they made a surprise Super Bowl run, right? Crazy things could happen. But I feel very confident in thinking most of the teams on this list probably won't even make the playoffs. I feel very good about that. I feel very, very good about that. I could be wrong. I know that's not the end all be all, but also I think if we're looking at this list, the Vikings, Falcons, and let's see here. I just want to make sure things are right. And Saints are the only teams in here with domes. I know that might sound weird. When do you care about them being on domes? Because when you play with a dome, you don't get to experience the weather for half of your games. Half of your home games are played in a sterile dome. Hope I said that word right. But you're just played in a dome where the lighting's all the same. The weather doesn't change. For someone like me, that's kind of never fun. I like weather games, so I know you can play away games, but at the same time, I'm always thinking of weather. So what do you guys think of this list? Do you think I missed any teams? Is there some teams you think I should have been on here? Maybe there's some honorable mentions to the Raiders. They for sure probably need a quarterback of the future as well. But apart from that, I can't think of anything. What is the Raiders quarterback room? They have Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell. We can put the Raiders on here, honorable mention. That could be another team you could look at too. But apart from that, I think I hit all the teams who are probably going to be bad this upcoming NFL season. So let me know, again, what you guys think. Hit like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time for probably maybe sometime next week when Madden 25 is officially revealed. So thank you guys for watching this. I'll see you later. Peace.